My name is Richard Feynman, and I want to begin by saying something that will immediately sound wrong to you. Time does not have a direction, at least not in the way you think it does. I don't say this to be provocative, and I don't say it to sound clever. I say it because when you strip physics down to what it actually says, when you ignore habit, language, and common sense, you find that the universe itself does not distinguish between past and future. Humans do. Our memories do. Our biology does. But the laws that govern particles, forces, and interactions do not. I learned this the hard way, not by philosophy, but by calculation. Every time I wrote down an equation and asked it how time behaves, the answer came back the same: I don't care. You can reverse time in the equations of motion, and they still work perfectly. No warning, no contradiction. Physics does not mark one direction of time as special. And that fact alone should make you uneasy, because it means that one of the most basic features of your lived experience is not fundamental to reality at all. People often confuse experience with law. They say time must flow forward because we see things age, decay, and fall apart. But physics doesn't work by watching things happen and guessing rules from appearances. Physics works by writing down principles and seeing what they allow and what they forbid. And when I examined those principles carefully, Newton's laws, Maxwell's equations, quantum mechanics, I saw no arrow of time written anywhere. The equations were indifferent. They allowed motion forward and backward, cause and effect swapped, processes reversed without objection. That doesn't mean broken glasses magically reassemble. It means the reason they don't is not embedded in the laws themselves. It comes from statistics, from entropy. Disorder increases not because it must, but because it is overwhelmingly likely to. Time feels like it flows forward because the universe began in a remarkably ordered state. That single fact does more work than any mystical idea of time ever could. Once you accept that, you realize something unsettling. What you call the future is simply the direction in which disorder grows. Change the initial conditions, and the arrow changes with it. Physics allows that. Reality doesn't forbid it. Only probability makes it rare. When I began working seriously on quantum electrodynamics, the problem of time stopped being philosophical and became unavoidable. In quantum theory, you don't describe nature by telling a single story about what happens. You calculate probabilities. And to do that correctly, you must consider every possible way an event could occur, not just the ones that look sensible to a human observer. This was deeply uncomfortable at first, even for physicists. Some of the allowed paths looked impossible. Particles could emit light before they absorbed it. Interactions appeared to violate the normal ordering of cause and effect. But when the calculations were done honestly, without forcing them to obey common sense, they gave answers that matched experiments with astonishing accuracy. Nature agreed with the mathematics, not with our intuition. To make these calculations manageable, I introduced diagrams, not because they were literally pictures of reality, but because they kept track of all allowed processes, forward and backward in time alike. In those diagrams, what you might call an antiparticle could be treated mathematically as an ordinary particle moving backward in time. That idea disturbed people. They thought I was making a claim about time travel. I wasn't. I was making a claim about symmetry. The equations didn't care which direction time pointed. They only cared that all possibilities were accounted for. Time's direction was not a rule. It was a choice imposed by us, not demanded by nature. This realization forces you to abandon a very comforting belief that cause must always come before effect. At the level of everyday life, that belief works well enough. But physics does not operate at the level of everyday life. At the fundamental scale, interactions are correlations, not stories. The universe does not simulate events frame by frame like a movie playing forward. It solves constraints. It balances equations. When you calculate an outcome, you are not watching the universe decide something step by step in time. You are finding which configurations are allowed and how strongly they contribute. From that point of view, time is not a flowing substance. It is a coordinate, no more sacred than left or right. Relativity already told us that space and time are woven together. Quantum theory finished the job by showing that the ordering we experience is not enforced by the underlying laws. The only reason the world appears to unfold in one direction is because entropy provides a gradient. Remove that gradient, and the distinction between before and after dissolves. Nothing in physics breaks. Only our expectations do. At this point, I realized that most confusion about time doesn't come from physics at all. It comes from human memory. We remember the past, not the future, and we quietly assume that memory is a property of time itself. It isn't. Memory is a physical process. It depends on entropy increasing. To remember something, your brain must create a stable physical record. That record requires energy dissipation. It requires disorder to increase somewhere else. In other words, memory only works in the same direction entropy increases. That single fact explains almost everything people think time does. We feel time flowing because our brains are built to record events in one entropy direction only. If entropy ran the other way, memory would run the other way too. You would remember what we now call the future and forget what we now call the past. And it would feel just as natural. Physics would not notice. The equations would not change. Only your experience would. That's the part people struggle with. They want time to be special. They want it to be fundamental. But physics keeps telling us the same thing again and again. Time is not special. It is not a driving force. It is a parameter we use to organize events, and the sense of flow comes from statistical imbalance, not from any law written into the universe. So when I say that time has no direction, I am not denying your experience. I am explaining it. Physics is not here to comfort you. It is here to tell you what is true, whether it fits intuition or not. The laws of nature do not point from past to future. They allow both. The error you feel is not imposed by the universe. It is inherited from the way the universe began. A low entropy starting point created a gradient, and everything you associate with time, aging, causality, memory, irreversibility, flows from that single fact. Remove the gradient, and time loses its meaning. That is not a philosophical statement. It is a physical one. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Time stops being a river and becomes a landscape. You don't move through it because it moves. You move because conditions allow motion in one direction more easily than the other. That is all. The universe does not care which way you label time. We do. And understanding that difference is the price of understanding reality.